In the previous episode, our boy led the way into the cavern, venturing deeper until he finally located the mithril mine. However, he also noticed that the black mist spreading through the cavern seemed to have an eerie effect on people's emotions. Just as they were about to head home, some unexpected visitors appeared. As we continue the story, at this very moment, besides Lu Sheng, no one else has noticed the impending danger. Everyone was too busy collecting mithril. They separated the mithril, filling their bags, and even emptying out their earlier belongings to make more room. But no matter how hard they tried, there was simply too much to carry all at once. Lu Sheng smiled as he looked at the surrounding mithril mines and praised the team for their hard work. He then told them that once they moved everything out, he would give the team a 10% share. Hearing this, everyone exchanged glances, their faces soon lighting up with joy. The bald guy even shouted excitedly, "Thank you, sir." The girl, however, looked hesitant, wanting to say something. Eventually, she made up her mind and thanked Lu Sheng for his generosity, but expressed that they didn't deserve it since they hadn't done much to help. Lu Sheng remained calm, and his gaze even became a bit cold. Looking her straight in the eyes, he told her that he didn't care whether she thought she deserved it or not. If he wanted to give it to her, she would take it. Seeing Lu Sheng's domineering attitude, the girl shivered slightly, her face turning red as she quickly changed her tune. "Thank you, sir." Only then did Lu Sheng seem satisfied. He couldn't help but think to himself, when you're weak, fury gets you nowhere. But once you're strong, even your goodwill can't be refused. There's an indescribable satisfaction in that. Suddenly, the girl sensed a dangerous aura from behind. Her expression grew serious as she nervously turned to Lu Sheng, telling him something was wrong. Lu Sheng, however, had known this ahead of time and was fully prepared. Not long after, the quiet space was filled with the sound of rapid footsteps coming from all directions, quickly surrounding the group. Through the black fog, numerous crimson eyes could be seen. Lu Sheng smiled and said he had been waiting for them. Several figures emerged from the black mist, covered in filth and walking barefoot with long, black toenails. Soon, more of them appeared. Each had a gloomy demeanor, their skin super pale from lack of sunlight with bloodshot eyes. They murmured something about fresh meat. For a moment the team was stunned, realizing these people were all grandmasters. But here's the question. Why were there so many grandmasters here? The girl's face grew heavy. It was no surprise. These must be the martial maniacs who had previously attacked the Red Snail Squad. Not to mention, they could also be responsible for the loss of the other squads in recent days. Looking at the crazed maniacs before them, the group felt uneasy. These lunatics were known to operate alone, so why were they all gathered here? Just then, Lu Sheng spoke up, gazing in a certain direction. There's only one possibility. Among these people, there's someone with absolute power to lead them, perhaps a king of some sort. The four were stunned for a moment. The next second, a clear sound of applause echoed from the distance. A man with a deathly pale face resembling a vampire slowly walked out, followed by green-skinned creatures that didn't look human. He smiled at Lu Sheng, saying, "You're very smart and very strong. Your flesh must be the most delicious." In his mind, by eating Lu Sheng, he would become even more powerful. The person behind him laughed and called out his name, Lucas, saying if he was going to have the most delicious, he should leave the rest for the others. Lucas licked his lips and nodded, saying he only ate the best. Hearing this name, the girl looked at him in shock and shouted, "Lucas, the former Eastern military star? Didn't he die over 10 years ago?" Lu Sheng curiously looked at her and asked if she knew this person. The girl nodded and explained that Lucas was one of the top prodigies of the Eastern Military District, known as the Eastern Star. He ranked third on the Eastern Star Generals list with a combat power of 13 stars. However, he disappeared during a mission to suppress an outbreak in a cavern rift over a decade ago. Everyone had thought he was dead, but she never imagined he had survived by consuming the blood and flesh of his fellow humans. Hearing this, Lu Sheng showed no reaction, but the bald guy began to panic. After all, Lucas had a combat power of 13 stars over a decade ago. How terrifying must he be now? Although Lu Sheng was strong, his combat power was only 12.5 stars. The girl told the bald guy to shut up and then added, "Lucas might not have gotten stronger. After all these years without sufficient resources, his blood energy might have declined. His combat power is probably no longer at its peak." The man laughed as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. To him, the resources he needed were right in front of him. As he laughed maniacally, his aura grew stronger. He raised one hand, seeing the people in front of him as nothing more than his meal, and decided it was time for dinner. In an instant, he began gathering his power. The black mist around them boiled and surged toward his body. Soon, his entire form was engulfed in a tornado of dark energy. The fierce wind forced the group to shield themselves with their arms, yet Lu Sheng, standing at the forefront, wasn't bothered whatsoever. Suddenly, Lucas underwent a horrifying transformation. His body sprouted spikes, wings, and antennae, turning into a monstrous figure. Seeing this terrifying sight, the four of them trembled in fear. The girl gulped hard, unable to believe what she was seeing. She stammered, What is this?" Lucas was clearly no longer human. He reveled in the newfound power his transformed body granted him, feeling an endless surge of strength. He laughed, saying, "The Eastern Star is nothing but history. When I first arrived here, I was as weak as an ant. During one battle, I was gravely injured, lying in the depths of the cavern, my life force slowly draining away. At my most desperate moment, I received the guidance of a god." Lu Sheng was slightly taken aback. "Did he say a god?" he asked. What did he mean by the guidance of a god? But Lucas didn't answer directly. Instead, he mused, "The essence of martial arts is to use any means to become stronger." He was right. If beasts can be food to make martial artists stronger, then martial artists who consume exotic beasts are the finest martial nourishment. Seeing the man avoid his question again, Lu Sheng grew a bit annoyed. He then asked, "Who is this he you're talking about?" But the man still didn't answer, instead letting out a low growl like a beast. He then began laughing and shouted that he was no longer the Eastern Star. Now, he is the Eastern Sun, or rather, the demonic sun. The dude kept rambling on, saying how one day his light would shine out of the caverns and cover the surface of the entire world. I'm not sure what this guy is on, but anyway. Lu Sheng shook his head, interrupting the man's self-absorbed monologue. "I asked you twice. Did you not hear me?" His voice rang out clearly. Lucas looked up at Lu Sheng in surprise, seeing him take a step closer. "It seems you didn't listen to a word I said," Lu Sheng continued, each step he took emanating a powerful aura. Since the man wouldn't reveal anything, Lu Sheng decided he would find out about this so-called god himself. As their eyes met, an overwhelming, indescribable killing intent exploded from Lu Sheng. The pressure was immense. Clearly, this man had no idea who he was messing with. Fear gripped Lucas as he screamed, "What are you?" But before he could finish his sentence, he couldn't even keep up with Lu Sheng's movement. With a simple palm strike, his hand became the sharpest blade in existence, slicing Lucas into pieces in an instant. Lucas's body exploded, leaving only a shrill scream echoing in the air. Lu Sheng calmly turned his head and said, "You say you're the sun. So, what does that make me?" Looking at the severed head on the ground, the martial maniacs were stunned. Their king hadn't withstood even a single blow from this young man. Lu Sheng shook his head, appearing somewhat disappointed. Perhaps he hadn't expected the opponent to be so weak, unable to endure even one strike. The team stared in disbelief. The former Eastern Star, whose combat power far exceeded 13 stars, was crushed like a fly in front of Lu Sheng. Just how strong is Lu Sheng? The martial maniacs, sensing Lu Sheng's overwhelming strength, began to flee in different directions. Lu Sheng's gaze swept around as he stretched his arms. At this very moment, he no longer needed a weapon. His hands were the sharpest weapons in existence. With a gentle wave, countless sword-like energies shot toward the fleeing maniacs. In moments, all of them were slain. They finally understood that the supposed 12.5-star combat power was just what Lu Sheng wanted the world to see. His true strength was unfathomable. They realized that with such power, the Eastern Military District would surely make a significant impact during the upcoming Grand Military Tournament. Lu Sheng scanned the area with his psychic energy, confirming this entire level had been fully cleared. He informed the squad that it was safe and instructed them to wait there. Then he departed, heading deeper into the cavern. The mention of a god had piqued his curiosity, and he had a suspicion he wanted to verify. He soon arrived at the 31st level, deep within the cavern. The black mist here was denser, and the surroundings were filled with strange green hues. Lu Sheng descended slowly, noting the eerie silence, perhaps too silent. He tried to probe the area with his psychic power, but even he struggled to navigate through the oppressive atmosphere. He wondered, If someone with weaker psychic power were here, they'd be completely blind. Lu Sheng walked cautiously, the oppressive atmosphere making him feel deeply uneasy. He wasn't sure if he should charge straight in. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared, striking his head directly. In the next moment, the scene around him changed dramatically. Gone was the murky, filthy cavern, replaced by a tranquil plain filled with butterflies. In the distance, near a serene lake, a figure appeared. Their eyes met, and the figure smiled at him, curiosity evident in their gaze. The figure resembled an elf from a storybook, making Lu Sheng wonder if they were an indigenous being of another world. He was pleasantly surprised to see intelligent life here. The figure smiled and extended a hand toward him, eyes filled with curiosity and joy. Just then, Lu Sheng's vision began to blur, and his body moved forward uncontrollably. Strange thoughts filled his mind as he kept talking to himself. His heart raced with excitement as he took another step. Suddenly, the world and the elf vanished, replaced by an ugly monster with a head covered in eyeballs. The creature spoke in a human voice, telling Lu Sheng not to be afraid and to come closer, promising everything he desired. More hands emerged from the depths, reaching out to grab him. Tentacles from the monster's head slowly approached the now seemingly dazed Lu Sheng, wrapping around his body. "Come into my embrace, my child," the monster said, extending its tongue. Just as it was about to devour him, Lu Sheng clenched his fist and then transformed it into a palm strike, aiming directly at the monster's head. In an instant, he decapitated it, eliciting a screech of pain. It turned out this was all an act. Lu Sheng was simply playing along, having known it was an illusion, and was merely curious about what the creature was up to. He then stuck up his middle finger and cursed at the creature. "Nice try, but you picked the wrong guy." Strangely enough, the creature wasn't killed. Instead, it reattached its head, smirking coldly. "I don't like disobedient children," it roared in fury, threatening to kill Lu Sheng. As it absorbed a massive amount of black mist, countless monsters began appearing from the depths. Back with the squad, they started identifying the fallen enemies. From the transformed Lucas, they discovered a dog tag, confirming his identity. The rest of them searched everyone else, occasionally letting out surprised exclamations. They found grandmasters from the Transcendent Martial School, and even the old owner of the Thunder Martial School. The girls sighed, instructing everyone to keep the identity proofs for reporting back to the military headquarters. With 30 grandmasters dead in one encounter, it was likely the biggest incident in years. The bald guy remarked that these people were already dead, having lost their humanity and become monsters. This was just their final death. Just then, with a sudden gust of wind, a person appeared before them. It was Lu Sheng, who had returned. He picked up the nearest backpack and instructed everyone to pack up and leave immediately. Glancing into the distance, he told the girl to find a way to notify any other squads in the area to evacuate if there were any. Confused, she asked what had happened. Lu Sheng replied calmly, "I accidentally angered some creatures in the depths of the cavern." As the cavern began to shake violently, it became clear that the monsters deep within were starting another outbreak.